as we're are also on Facebook Live quite again. So good afternoon to those of you that are joining and will be joining on Facebook Live. You can subscribe to the I Really Mean It podcast on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, um, iHeartRadio, some of those different places. So glad for those of you that have done that. We are up over 2,500 downloads, and we just started this podcast in August of this year, and it's been so great to be able to do that. I've gotten so much great feedback. It's really helped me grow my business with Brooks Brothers Consulting, my nonprofit, my real estate business. People are reaching out to me, and I'm able to help some people. So it's been just phenomenal. So I thank you so much for everybody that's been able to share the podcast, been able to join it, been able to listen, share feedback. You can check us out on Facebook on the I Really Mean It podcast page on Facebook. Make sure you go like that. And you can see more content. We have the Minding Your Business in Memphis group that I'd love for you to join. For those of you listening on the podcast, it's the Minding Your Business in Memphis group on Facebook. You can check us out there, and you can check us out on Twitter, myself at RGB, and also on Instagram. So if it seems like I'm laboring a little bit, I'm actually here. I'm at home today. I took a day off from the office, and I'm actually at home. I'm in my upstairs bedroom / bonus room, and it just gets hot as hell up here. So it's hard to mitigate it because the way the heat ducts work, so I got to get that checked out. But it's been an issue for some time, but don't tend to spend a whole lot of time up here. Mickey Renee, good afternoon to you. Johnny Diggs, good afternoon. And Kristen Davis, good afternoon to you. Those are folks that are joining on Facebook Live. So a couple things before we get into our topic today. We've got obviously the Christmas holiday that hits on Monday, so I know a lot of people are running around with that, good, bad, or ugly. But this week's been just a crazy week in the news. You've had, locally here, we had the Confederate statues this week that came down in several, or actually a couple of the parks. The big one being the Nathan Bedford Forrest statue that came down, and rightfully so, although there are other things that need to be addressed in this city. What I found interesting was when people were equating the bringing down of the statues to other issues in the community. And I hope people would realize that bringing down a Confederate statue is not going to solve racism, it's not going to solve pessimism, it's not going to solve economic instability or economic slavery. It's not going to solve crime, it's not going to do any of those things. But you start with bringing down symbols of oppression. So to eliminate oppression, it first starts with recognizing it. So it kind of goes into my topic that I'm doing for this series: identify, plan, execute, winning the chip in 2018, which is the second part of the series that I'll be doing today on Plan Yours. But it kind of goes to the same thing. The first thing you got to do is identify, which I talked about last week, and that's what was done. So you identify, no matter how long they've been up there, you identify what the issue is, and then you go through your planning. And now what they did is what I'm going to talk about next week, which is they executed. And then the big thing that I mentioned in my post yesterday was then you have to reassess, because a lot of people aren't aware that there's another agenda that went in with the whole removal of the statues, that a lot of times people get caught into the emotion of that, which is designed to be the moving hand over here while they're stabbing with the other hand, so to speak. That's what happens with sometimes these agendas is it looks like they're complying, but there's another underlying agenda that people don't know that also has to be fought. But anyway, not to get too much into that, you also had more breaking news into the Lorenzen Wright murder, former NBA player and local Memphis star Lorenzen Wright with his ex-wife and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to get too much into that. For those of you that are local, there's a local columnist who's been really big into the story. And I'll allow him to continue to bring you the news and that kind of thing, because I don't really have anything new other than what he's kind of brought to the table, and he's great at identifying legitimate sources and bringing it to the community in that sense. So whether you like him or you don't is your own personal thing. But in this particular situation, he brings the news and brings accurate information to the community. So I'm not going to dive too much into that, but hopefully that gets resolved here as we go into 2018. So anyway, let's get into, again, this is part 2 of the series. It's called Identify, Plan, Execute, Winning the Chip in 2018. And what I want to focus on today is the planning piece of it. Okay? So last week I talked about identify yours and what you wanted to do. What I hope that you did coming from last week's episode is that if you hadn't already, that you began identifying and defining, remember, what your personal and professional endeavors are. What do you want to accomplish, right? You have to begin with the definition. What is it, right? And how people tend to like to avoid that because they love being engaged into their emotion. You know, they love to they don't like to define things because that's going to make them have to think, right? And it's going to make them change some of their beliefs sometimes when you define things. And so people don't like to do that. It's much easier to just be emotional about it, either really happy and joyful or really down and sad or somewhere in between. Okay, so after you've identified and defined what it is that you want to do and what you want to accomplish, then you begin the planning piece. The planning piece is not so much about how you're inspired. So your inspiration is a small piece of your planning. A big piece of your planning is another P word, which is your perspiration. It's your work. Do you do the research? Do you do the grind work that it takes to understand the ins and outs? I've gone into a kind of using sports as an analogy for this particular series, so that's going to continue. And another thing that happened this week that I want to bring in is you had the raising of 2 jerseys for one NBA great, Kobe Bryant, with the Los Angeles Lakers, who retired a couple years ago. And the Lakers, as an organization, decided to retire not just his number 8 jersey from when he started his career, but also his number 24 jersey, which he wore kind of in the latter part of his career. And so what happens with that is very interesting to have a player have 2 of his jerseys retired, but that's kind of the nature of doing things in excess out in LA. But one of the things that people talk about Kobe Bryant from when he was young and coming into the NBA is this. The story about Kobe Bryant was really young. He was 17 years old. And he decided that he wanted to not only go into the NBA, but he wanted to be one of the NBA's best. And the stories that came out of his workouts from many of the GMs, whether it was Jerry West with the Los Angeles Lakers or other GMs, were like, man, this kid is off the chain. You know, Kobe Bryant was in there killing current NBA players, right, in workouts, whether it's guys even on championship teams. You know, he's killing them, you know? And so that's what you get. And so in order for him to do that, right, he had to plan correctly, okay? He had to plan what he was going to be. He couldn't just show up and play. And a lot of times that's what we tend to do personally and professionally, is we think that we're just going to show up and just play. We're just going to show up and it's going to work out for us because I'm overdue or because somebody owes something to me. And no, that's not how success works. Success in anything. We talked last week about personal success, and I used the topic of, you know, someone, men or women that want to be married or want to be engaged in a sustained relationship. And we talked about professionally with owning your business. None of those things happen just because you show up. Showing up's a big part of it. You know, a lot of times the old adage is 80% of success or something like that is just showing up. But that's 80% of it. You still got the other 20. But a big part of it is your plan. What do you do to research? So whether it's personally, you say, well, I want to be married. So you've identified, candidate or candidates, right? And you've defined what marriage means to you. Not what marriage means to mama, not what marriage means to sister or brother, anybody else, but what it means to you. But now you got to start planning. All right. So how do you plan to be married? And I'm not trying to turn this into marriage counseling because I'm not an expert, right? Everybody that's married will tell you that it's an ongoing learning process, right? That very few, if anybody, ever really masters. But what you get is when you start planning, so for yourself, you have to get yourself in order. So your planning starts within, right? So what do you do when you start planning? You start researching. You start looking within yourself. So if you want to be married, there's going to be some behavior changes that aren't going to be easy for you to engage in because now you're incorporating someone else's life into yours as one, right? So things that you might enjoy doing or that you have high principle on, you're going to have to make adjustments, right? And then you're going to have to suppress that urge within yourself. Things that you do as a bachelor or bachelorette, right, aren't going to necessarily always continue. Some things will because you have to keep your own identity, right? So that's the other thing that happens sometimes with folks in marriage is they completely go to the other side and they lose their own identity. You don't want to do that. Same within your business. When you're planning for your business, it's not just about calling me or calling anybody else to get a business plan written, right? The business plan is a living document, and what goes into that is a research and an understanding of first yourself. That's why you have an executive summary. That's why you have your research around your target market, how you're going to acquire your product or service, how you're going to sell it, what price you're going to sell it at, what's the end result of the business, who does it serve, what do you want to do? Is it a legacy pass off? Does it have a finite date that is the end? Are you looking to sell the business at some point? So all those things are defined in your business plan, right? But it's the same thing, whether you're planning to get married, whether you're planning to start a business, or whatever your endeavor is going into 2018, is your plan. So it's about your perspiration. What kind of time do you spend working? What time do you spend grinding? What time do you spend researching? And look, researching ain't just Google searching and picking out stuff that's on the first page of Google. Okay? That's not your only thing of researching. Again, think about when you want to be married, your part of your planning is, like I said earlier, you're looking into yourself first. Right? You've identified, you've defined. Now you got to look into yourself, y'all. So you look yourself in the mirror and you're honest, right? Where do I have strengths? Where do I have great strength at? It's your own SWOT analysis. If you're not familiar with SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's part of your business plan. You have a SWOT analysis. So what are your strengths? What do you do and project very well? Is it your sense of humor? Is it your analytical thinking? Is it some of your principles? Is it the benefit of how you were raised? Is it your ability to engage trust and likability? Is it your planning and preparation? All these things that you're looking at into yourself and to look at when you're entering into a marriage contract, you're prepared for. Same with your business, right? You're looking at within yourself as the business owner. Or if you're going to be an entrepreneur, right, you're generally starting the business, again, by definition, you're starting the business so that you can eventually exit quickly so you can go on to the next business. That's what an entrepreneur is. If you're going to stay in the business, you're a business owner now. You own the business. You're owning the process, right? Otherwise, as an entrepreneur, your plan then is to start the business, get it to a certain point, and exit it. Whether you liquidate it, or you're selling to somebody else, or you're passing it through. as a legacy pass through. But at some point, you're looking to exit the business. So an entrepreneur is willing to take the risk to upstart the business to get it to a point, and then they're not as interested in owning it. And then an entrepreneur transitions into a business owner if it's a business that they like to stay in and continue to own because they love the process, or there's something intrinsically or extrinsically about the business or about themselves that attaches them to it. So your work and your plan is not just Google, it's not just posted on Facebook. It's a lot of things. It's you study others. When you talk about marriage, you're looking at, you want to study all facets to have a good understanding. You need to understand all facets. So you need to be around people that are married. I see people that it makes me chuckle when they don't. There's no one around other than maybe their mama or daddy or grandmama or grandma them that's married. Everybody that they're around is single, right? And so if you're not going to be around married people to see the interaction, it's the same thing professionally. People that jump up that say they want to be a doctor, right? So going to medical school and all that, yeah, that's what's going to get you there, of course. But where it starts in your plan is you need to be around other doctors, because you need to determine. It goes back to your identify and define. So you've identified, you define. Now part of your planning is, let me see what a day in the life of a doctor is, to even determine if that's really what I want to be, to make sure that my definition and my identity is what I thought it would be, or what I was looking for it to be. Same with marriage. You have to research, because I need to see, again, going back to that definition from last week. Why do I want to be married? Right? Is it because this is a person that I want to build a life with, that I want to build a legacy with? Or do I just want to be able to post on Facebook that I got, so I don't have to hide my man, or I don't have to hide my woman on Facebook? Where people travel someplace and they only show their plate like they went and traveled all by themselves. Where people have to only show his arm, or only all this kind of junk that people feel like they have to do. And there's probably legit reasons for that. So I'm not dogging nobody, but so if you're motivated by that, now I don't have to hide her no more, and I don't have to hide him no more, or now I can go to the marriage dinners and the marriage trips and all this kind of stuff, or just quite frankly, I just want to be able to tell folk, I'm married. I'm this age now, and I need to be able to tell folk I'm married, because everybody else then got married, and I want to be able to have a wedding. I want folk to come and look at me, right? So once you determine that, whatever that is, and that's not at the point of identify and define from last week, y'all, that's not the point of determining right or wrong. So it's not the judge. Your planning then starts to define then. So you have a definition period in your planning. It starts to define, is your initial hypothesis or view of it correct? So again, when you want to be a business owner, you need to hang around other business owners. You can't hang around workers, right? And there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying that it's different. It's just like you want to play basketball, you need to hang around basketball players. If you want to be great at basketball or maximize your potential, and this is what I did. I maximized the talent that I had by being around players that were better than me. So I didn't want to be the best player on the court coming up. As a matter of fact, I wanted to be on the lower end, because I knew if I was around better players than me, that's going to elevate my talent. Same happens personally, right? I need to be around people better than me. Everybody better than you in a marriage is not someone that's been married for 40 years. Okay? That doesn't mean that they're better. You could be driving the wrong direction for a long time. Just you've been driving a long time, that don't mean you're going in the right direction. If you started and said you're going to leave Memphis, right? I'm going to drive to LA. I'm going to go see Chris Eagleston with Global Innovation Now. So I'm going to go out there and see Chris, but I'm going to start on 40 East. Okay? I'm going to get on I-40 East and head towards Nashville and tell folk I'm going to California. Now I'm driving, right? I got experience driving, but I'm driving in the wrong damn direction, right? So if I'm driving in the wrong direction, what does it mean to have experience? So again, part of your planning is you've got to make sure you're heading in the right direction. And you do that by your research and then being around the people that make up what you want to be. Good, bad, or ugly, right? Samantha, how you doing? Rachel, Dorsey, Karanda, what's going on, Soul War? Lou, Garza, Eddie Jones, Sharon Jackson, Miss Avery, George, how y'all doing? Ro, Rashonda Coleman, thank y'all for joining. Those are folks on the Facebook Live. So you spend your time in your planning phase, and you're around the kind of people. When I played ball, and even going back to Kobe Bryant, he's hanging around NBA players. Now he's in high school, but he's not hanging around all the high school kids. He's going to the gym playing against guys that are 25, 30, 35 years old, grown men, and handling his business. You got to do the same thing personally and professionally. You got to handle your business, be around. You want to be married, you got to hang around married people, because you got to be able to see the interaction, the good, bad, and the ugly. Some people are married, but they don't really have no, real marriage. They just kind of together and they enjoy each other's conveniences, right? I don't want to have to go cut the yard, so I got him. I don't want to go in the kitchen, I have to fix my own food, so I got her. Some people do have a really legitimate, great marriage. It's not all love, it's respect. Now, I'm going to get into that on another subject. Because a lot of y'all run with love. And love gets y'all toe up, too. It'll get you toe up. It's got to be a basis of respect. Okay, but I'm not here to talk about that today. Planning. You got to be around the right people. With your business, you got to be around business owners, business-minded people that you can respect, that are respectable. Okay? Marriage, around people's marriage that you can respect. Not their facade, right? Not their pictures on Facebook or Instagram, not their videos, but how they conduct themselves one-on-one, face-to-face. Because a lot of people do it, you could be who you want to be in the army and on social media. But you want to be able to learn from people that you can respect. You also want to be able to learn from people who had challenges or were not successful. So again, that's learning. It's just like in Star Wars where they talk about the light and dark side of the Force. You need to learn both sides, right? That's where your balance comes into play. So not that you need to hang around folks that have struggled in marriage or been married multiple times in and out and all that kind of thing, but you need to get an understanding of what are the steps that take place that make it successful, and what are the steps that take place that lead to failure or lead to severe obstacles that you have to face. It's the same thing in your business. You need to be around business owners that have been successful, and you need to be around business owners who have not. Right? Business owners who have not been successful, you learn so much of, and if they're honest with themselves and honest with you, they'll share with you their story, right? They'll share with you what took place, what happened with this, what happened with that, right? What are the things that took place that were obstacles that they faced? What are the demons that maybe they faced within themselves? Same with Kobe Bryant. Remember, I was telling the story. He had to be around not just NBA players, but with his dad playing in the NBA, I'm sure he was around or able to see, even as a youngster, players who fizzled out the NBA, players who didn't have good careers, guys who had potential, right? And for some reason, they were not able to fulfill that. As well as seeing guys who had little potential who did very well because they worked. Work ain't just because I stay up all night long, right? That's the one thing that gets a lot of us in business is we think work is because I'm not sleeping. That's dumb, right? Because part of being your best, think of Kobe Bryant. For him to be the best ball player, it ain't because he's staying up all night. It's because he's regimented. He's got the right plan. And when I get to next week, we'll talk about execution. His execution was tight. You have to get the proper rest. You have to get the proper nutrition. All that goes into whether you're being a business owner, whether you're going to be in marriage, whatever it is, your personal, professional endeavors, you have to have the right level of health management. There's no glory in, it's 24 hours in a day and you were up 20 of them. So what? Right? Because if you're probably wildly inefficient. And that's why some people's ships never move from year to year. You'll notice some people, and it's not a knock, it's just what happens. And it happens when I consult with people. 2015 looks like 2016, looks like 2017, and looks like 2018. Why? Because they're into the front facade, right? And they're busy, but they're not productive. They're not inefficient. So they don't really move the needle. They got the same issues. They still needed mama and daddy last year. They're going to need them this year, right? And they keep doing the same thing. Going to need them next year. They never really, only thing they do is age. They go from this age to that age to that age. But they get frustrated because they don't really get to the next level within their personal and professional endeavors because they're too busy in the facade, right? Staying up all night, that's fine for a short period of time when you're grinding. But if you're always doing that, you're not moving the needle, right? Owning a business is not, it should evolve over time. Yes, there are times where you're going to have to really be in the grind work. No different than in basketball, we talk about Kobe Bryant. No different than personally in your marriage. There's times you're going to have to be up doing the grind work, right? If that's perpetual, then something within you is not becoming efficient. It sounds sexy, and we love in this country we're hypersensitive to work because we're always trying to establish our value. But if you're constantly grinding, you should get to a point where you've already established your value in your marriage, in your business, and like Kobe Bryant did in basketball. He got to a point to where you knew he was going to be a Hall of Fame player. His legacy was intact. LeBron James' legacy right now is pretty much intact. He'd have to do something really dumb or really fall off some kind of way to impact that now. Right? So, as you plan and you're putting in the work, don't forget that. Your environment of who you're around that you can learn from. The other part of planning that you have to add to, in addition to that, is you got to involve others. You need a mentor. And you hear that all the time. And you need to involve others. If you're in your business, right, you need to get feedback from people that potentially would buy your product or service. What is it that they like? What problem does it solve for them? How often do they have this problem? And how often will they come back? And are they willing to compensate you each time that they need this problem taken care of? And that's virtually any product or service, whether it's business to consumer or business to business. In a marriage situation, you need to be able to consult other people, even once you are married. You need to be able to consult trusted people, not your girlfriend that's jealous of you because she's a career bridesmaid, and not your brother that he wants to run in the clubs his whole life till he's 50. And wait till mama died, and now he want to get married, when no one's around to take care of him. You got to, as you're going through the process and you're planning and you're taking notes, you're learning, right? And part of your learning, you're acquiring knowledge and you're gaining the stories and you're gaining the insight, right? And then you got to be able to discern what is really authentic and then what is BS, right? And look at things in terms of like I talked about initially, within yourself. You know what your skill set is. So take your SWOT analysis, compare it to theirs, and say, okay, here's where I need to be careful with, right? And here's where I think I've got the strengths to cover that. Now, within that SWOT analysis is threats. And there are going to be threats that come up. There's threats to the marriage, right? And then there's opportunities. There's threats to your business, and then there's opportunities within your business. And then Kobe Bryant faced what? Threats. What was Kobe Bryant's threat? Every year there's another Kobe coming in the draft, right? There's some other kid that's coming in the draft every year to try to take your spot. The Lakers draft guys, why? They don't draft them to hope that they just become, average 2 points a game. Every time they draft a player, it's designed that hopefully he can become a star and become a Hall of Famer, right? And stay with us the length of his career. Or in the WNBA, the length of her career. Right? If you're talking about a Maya Moore or somebody like that, the threat to her is there's a young girl that's watching her right now on ESPN when the game's over with, she's going to go get her basketball and she's going to go out there and she's going to try to be Maya Moore. And she's going to try to be better than her. She's going to try to be quicker, faster, bigger, stronger. There's guys that are going to be trying to be bigger, stronger than Kobe Bryant. And there's going to be guys and girls that are going to be trying to be bigger and stronger than you. And one thing that's always going to try to be bigger and stronger than you is life itself. Okay? Things happen in life, right? A lot of it's because of our own choices and our own subjectivity and how we approach things. Our stubbornness, our pettiness, all those kind of things that contribute to decisions and choices that we make. And then some of those choices have longer term effects. Some have really short term effects. But they all have effects. Okay? So you've got to be able to incorporate other people and other ways of learning. Besides, again, just Google and all this kind of stuff. But as you're around people and you're learning, then you need to have one-on-one time so that you can get a full understanding. When you do your business plan in your business, you want to understand from your potential customer, again, those things that I mentioned earlier. And you want to be able to determine, are you selecting the right target market or not? Right? So as you're doing that, you're gathering this information. That's part of what makes your business plan. And then, like I said, next week we'll get into the execution. So you're not just putting the plan down on paper and walking away. There's a next step that then you got to go do it. And you got to go execute on it and then reassess. But that's next week's podcast. Personally, with your marriage. You're talking with people and you're gaining an understanding. Again, who's your target? You've identified your target. And you're doing the research, right? Within yourself and within that person. So the same SWOT analysis that we talked about with yourself, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, you're also doing that with who? The other person that you're looking to marry, him or her, right? And you've got to determine, as you combine your SWOT analysis, you've got to be able to then determine, when we combine our strengths, does that offset any weaknesses? Does mine or her strengths, or does his and hers, or hers, however it is, I'm not here to judge that. But as the two people come together, do your strengths help eliminate or mitigate weaknesses? And they should. If they don't, if you and the other person, you and old boy or you old girl, get together and your strengths don't offset any of your weaknesses, you need to be a little careful. You need to, take some looks at that. You need to look at some of your opportunities and threats then. All right? So you both have opportunity for growth within your marriage. Because at that point, you're not even married. So, there's all the opportunity in the world. And some of it depends on age and upbringing and where you are with certain statuses and things like that, financially and emotionally and that kind of thing. But at that point, you've got to look at how things are offsetting, right? And in the other sense, are your weaknesses overshadowing some of your strengths, right? Does the other person's weakness cancel out your strength? Does your weakness cancel out their strength, right? That's why I say it takes time to put these things together as you're doing your analysis. Right? And some people can do their planning much faster than others. Some people, it takes a lot more time and a lot more diligence. Some people are quick just like that, and they can quickly size things up. They got a really strong discernment for that, doing that SWOT analysis. But you've got to do it. It ain't just about, oh, I love him, I love her. You got to do the analysis, right? Because your idea is you're looking at this for a long term. You're not looking to just do it just for the sake of doing it. Or hopefully you're not. Because if you are, you're going to find out in your planning phase that your identification, your definition might have been off, right? Same with your business. Within your business, you've got to be able to do your SWOT analysis for yourself, any business partners, and your market. You know the Memphis market, for those of us that are here in Memphis, or whatever city that you're in, you've got to understand the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of it. Kobe Bryant had to do that. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Every player's got one. There's no player that's ever played in the NBA that didn't have a weakness. And most of them had multiple ones. All right? So in all areas that I'm talking about, y'all, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to incorporate other people to have that conversation with and be able to, again, spend your time. And there's no rule of thumb on how much time to spend. You'll know when you feel at peace, when you feel calm. If it's constantly bugging you and constantly pulling on you, tugging on you, you're not ready yet. All right? You need to feel at peace. You'll feel calm. There'll be a certain cool calmness that'll come about you when you feel you've planned for your business and now you're ready to go execute. When Kobe Bryant felt comfortable coming out of practice and weight training and getting up in the morning before other players and working. There's accounts of players getting to the gym and Kobe Bryant's already been there for 2 hours. He's sweating like a pig because he's working. Does that mean that he stayed up till 1 in the morning and then jumped up at 4? No. He couldn't do that and be his very best. So that's why I'm telling y'all, don't get into all that other stuff about, oh, I was up late and got up early, whatever. That's just you trying to justify within yourself. You know, if you're trying to justify yourself, whatever, the rest of us don't care. Right? Because everybody's trying to move on with their own selves. All right? Kobe Bryant wasn't in the club all night. Right? Not if he's getting up in the morning to go be at the gym at 4 and 4:30 in the morning. 2 and 3 hours before any other player. That means the night before, again, part of his plan, right, was proper nutrition, proper rest. So he had to have gone to bed at a certain hour, ideally anyways, so that he could be up fresh, ready to go, with a fresh, renewed mindset, right? And not the cloudiness of being tired and being fatigued, right? So he had to watch what he put in his body, and he had to be prepared so that when he got to the gym, he's ready to go. Same in your business. As you're planning, you got to plan for, when I get to my business every day, what should happen? What needs to happen? What should be happening? And how is the business evolving? If the business always is, if your plan is that your business is always going to involve you, you created a job. That's what you did. You just created your own job. And guess what? You thought that entrepreneurship was only, well, I'm going to be my own boss. Guess what? Every customer that you get, you acquire a boss. So if you got 100 customers, guess what? You got 100 bosses. At work, you might have had one boss and then a boss above him or her and a boss, you know what I mean? But you got one direct boss that's making a decision on your career at that particular company. So when you get into entrepreneurship, it's not, that's the fallacy. Oh, I'm my own boss. Yeah, you're your own boss of your time. You can decide whether you go get up or not or whatnot. Whether you go get out of bed or not, or whether you go do something with the business or not that day. Yes, you have that choice. But you just picked up every customer you picked up is a boss. Because guess what? A company, if you work for a company and they lose 1,000 customers, yeah, they might do some layoffs, but then they might not. They might just go pick up some other ones. Don't really affect you, depending on your level and, there's some other factors. But otherwise, as a business owner, you lose, you lose, sometimes you lose a customer. Some people that are in business and FedEx is their biggest customer and they're leveraged with them and they represent 60% of their revenue, and you lose FedEx, you were fired, right? FedEx fired you. Your boss fired you. They don't have to be FedEx. It could be any one of you all. You all hire and fire, at least you should. You all hire and fire businesses every day. How? Sometimes with your words, especially with social media and that kind of stuff now, but definitely with your feet and your pocketbook. You hire and fire businesses all day long. In just about every category of business that there is, and just about at every level. Right? So it's about, as if you're going into business, your plan. And when you write your business plan, you get someone to help your business plan, you got to look at how you're going to incorporate it. It's got to be planned to then execute, not just plan to just say, oh, I've got a business plan. You always get people that, when I'm in banking, and you get people that write a business plan, they don't even know what the hell it says because they got somebody to write it for them. And they just wanted to check the box and say, oh, here's my business plan, right? They don't know half of what it says. They haven't read it. They might have glanced at a few things, looked at the pretty charts and, all that kind of stuff. But they don't know their plan. That plan should be ingrained from you. That's why when I do business plans with people, they write it. I don't write people's business plan, right? I help assist and guide, right? I provide guidance, and I provide resources. I link them to resources and things like that through Brooks Brothers Consulting. But I don't write people's business plan because it's not my vision, right? It's yours. It's your vision. It's your plan. It's your business. It's not mine. So, me writing it is doing you a disservice. If I write your business plan, that I'm acting in a criminal sense towards you. And that's malpractice. You should write your own business plan because it needs to come from, who better for it to come from than the brainchild, right? Same, go back to, with marriage, right? Both of you are the brainchild of that. That's your vision. How do you envision seeing yourselves 5 years later, 10 years later? It's critical. The planning piece is critical. Now, execution, when I get to that next week, that gets into the critical piece of what separates those that do and then those that don't, or those that perpetually don't. Goes into the execution. But it starts in the planning. It starts in the planning. I encourage you all, as you're listening to this podcast and you're sharing it with others, take apart your plan for 2018. You may have already done it. Some of you are really proactive and do a really good job of preparing yourselves to be successful in 2018. But, take a look at your plan again and make sure that, is it smart? Is it specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, timely? The SMART acronym with any goal. And does it fit your definition? Do you maybe need to make some adjustments? A plan is a living thing. A business plan is a living document. Your plan is living. It's not, just this static kind of thing. It's dynamic. It could change and adjust with any kind of evolution or any kind of changes that come about or come your way. So, really look into that. We're looking to your plan, y'all. And I'm definitely here to help. Anybody that wants to reach out to me, I love to help people with their plan to be successful. It's not about me. It's not about, how I'm going to ingrain myself in it. No, it's your plan. I like to see people legitimately be successful in what they choose to do. Not here to judge, your business or your personal endeavors in one way. I'm just telling you what I know and what I've experienced, right? So this is the I Really Mean It podcast. I thank y'all so much. Again, go on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all those different places that you can consume podcasts. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share it. Be sure to support someone else's business. I appreciate the shout out last week on the Startup Life, which is our big brother podcast hosted by Dominic Lawson of Owls LLC. So shout out to him and his entire team. And shout out to all of you that are in business out here doing things. Shout out to you that are looking to evolve your personal relationships. Shout out to you that are looking to evolve your professional relationships and professional endeavors. But I'm cheering for you. It's a champion. All of you are champions, and I definitely appreciate your time on the day. So, listen, I'm going to get out of here. It's on a Friday. We've got a lot of things going this weekend. Definitely enjoy Monday's holiday. Enjoy time with friends and family. And we'll be right back here for part 3. We're going to wrap this series up, and we're going to wrap up 2017, y'all. Part 3 is going to be Execute Yours. So we've gone through Identify, we've gone through Plan, and then now here's the uber critical piece that separates those that have and those that have not in this particular sense, which is your ability to execute. I'm RGB. This is the I Really Mean It podcast, and you all have a great day. Peace.